Meet Stoney Smith, proprietor and chief grease monkey at Oddball Customs. Stoney's specialty, take old cars and make them cool. Today, this 1940 Dodge half-ton is going under the knife. It's going to be transformed from tired old farm truck into badass hot rod with a custom 3-inch chop. And I'm the one that's going to do the deed.
We're doing one of the most awesome things you can do to a truck, and that's chopping the roof of it.
Gonna chop the roof? What does chop mean?
We're taking the roof off of it, removing 3 inches, and putting the roof back on.
Now, before I can turn into a maniac with the grinder, Stoney carefully marks out where the cut lines will be with masking tape. So what does this tape represent?
That's the amount of material we're going to remove.
So we're gonna cut that out, drop the roof.
That's correct.
Cool. And what about up at the front there?
Same thing, just on a different angle. We've tried to pick, or I've picked the 2 narrowest points of the front of the A-pillar that when they come down, all points will line up again.
So, Stoney, can we cut yet?
No, we have to brace it.
What does that mean?
We have to structurally reinforce the lower half of the cab so when we remove the top, it doesn't fold in on itself.
Hey, Stoney, you've been busy doing some work here. What's going on?
The structure has now been supported. All the bracing is in. It's not going anywhere once the roof has been removed.
Okay, so why did you have to brace it like this?
When the roof comes off, it's going to get all floppy everywhere. So we needed the way to make sure when the roof and everything's back on it that the door gaps remain the same. So by bracing it, everything stays the way it was.
So, are we ready?
It's time. It's time for you to chop. Nope, nope. No, trim it up. Yeah, there. All the cuts are done. It's time to come off.
Okay. Oh, look at that.
Just like that.
Now that the roof is off and we see the braces here, we begin to sort of understand that the roof is a really important part of the structural strength of this vehicle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Well, I've got a little demonstration that will help illustrate exactly how important the roof is to the structural integrity of a vehicle. So why don't you step into my office for a second? That's a good-looking car you got there, Dutch. Can I borrow it for an experiment?
Sure.
It's perfect for a little lesson in structural integrity that relates to that roof that we just cut off that pickup truck. So let's start with a weight. Got a nice big heavy anvil there. Is that heavy, Dutch?
Yes.
Okay, what's gonna happen when you put it on top of this car?
I think the car's gonna break.
That's a reasonable assumption, so let's try it out. Oh, why is the anvil sitting up there, Dutch?
Well, I think it's because this is like connected to that, which makes it stable.
Okay.
I know.
What do you think, Stoney?
Geometry.
That's right. Trusses and arches. Beams that are put at angles and arch shapes, those are great at carrying loads. They got strength under compression, and that's what you've got with the roof of your vehicle. But when you take that away, the situation changes totally. That's not good, is it?
No.
No. And this is kind of like what you'd have if you had a convertible, right, Stoney?
In the case of a convertible, there'd be 2 giant beams or many degrees of smaller geometry running through the bottom of the car like another truss under the bottom.
So if you have a car that's designed without a roof, all that bracing and strength has to be underneath.
And don't forget, you got 2 opening doors, so it all has to be carried underneath.
And that makes a convertible much heavier than a hardtop car of the same model.
And a lot stiffer, too.
So what now, Stoney?
Finish the truck.
Yeah!
That sort of gives us a general idea of what it's going to look like.
So we've shrunk it this way, and that's the chunk of the pillar that came out.
3 inches.
We've dropped the whole thing. We got our 3-inch chop here. Yep. The whole profile's lower. There's a lot of work left to be done to get it welded back together. And then once that's done, you've got the structural integrity back. This has been amazing, Stoney. Thanks for letting us into your shop and letting me do a little chopping.
No problem, my pleasure. We have a lot of work to do now, though. You're not off that easy.
Oh, great, okay. Hey, Stoney. Hey. I see you're welding.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to teach you a little bit about the science of welding.
You're going to teach me a little bit of the science of welding. I'm just a welder.
Okay. Now, what sort of welding is this?
This is MIG welding.
MIG welding, what does that mean?
Metal inert gas. I'm using electricity to create heat to melt metal, to join metal.
Do you think you can train me to be a welder?
Let's see where you are right now. So basically, you're going to take that tip of the wire, find an open gap here in the metal, and you're going to fill it up.
And do I touch the wire to the metal?
Yes, you do. That's what creates electricity or finishes the circuit.
How long should I do it for?
That's the art part. So there's a certain level of science and then a certain level of art here. Okay. So what you're going to try to do is get that to fill up or fill the gap between these two welds here and not blow a hole through the rest of the metal.
I am just about as scared to do this as I've been to do anything. I can't see a thing. Oh, jeez. Oh.
Whoa, we're supposed to fill the holes, not make them.
Oh no.
That's a hole.
I have no idea what I'm doing here. So to get started, I think you need to show me your MIG welding system so we can understand what's going on.
It's the science lab.
Right. Let's start by trying to understand the science of what's going on with metal inert gas welding.
When you press the trigger, the wire comes out of the machine, completes the circuit via the ground cable through the sheet metal on the cab or the truck.
And how does the inert gas enter into it?
The inert gas comes out of the tip and shields the weld. It protects the weld from oxygen.
The oxygen in the air.
That's correct.
And the gas that's coming out of this nozzle here comes from this tank, right? It says argon, carbon dioxide. So argon is an inert gas. Carbon dioxide suppresses combustion and is not terribly reactive. Comes through the tube and flows out there to keep oxygen away. So in order to understand the science of metal inert gas welding, let's do an experiment. Let's do some welding without the inert gas, and let's do some welding with the inert gas and compare the results. And then we should really see the role the gas plays, right?
Excellent.
Okay, so let's do some welding.
You can do some welding.
Me? You trust me?
Absolutely.
I like your style. Okay, so which way do I point this thing?
Oh boy.
So step one in the experiment is to do some welding with no gas flowing. Visor down. So the welding spot will be exposed to atmospheric air.
When you weld without the shielding gas, you can see that there's no protection for the weld, so it became very porous and popped all over the place. And there's no strength in that right now. You can bend that plate and all those welds will snap.
Either I'm really strong or that's really crappy welding.
It's really crappy welding.
So clearly something's going on there. That is not a desirable outcome.
No. So let's try it with shielding gas. Gas is on.
Okay, and that means that whenever I pull the trigger, that argon carbon dioxide mixture is going to be flowing out of the nozzle and keeping oxygen in the air away from the weld.
Correct. So other than technique and style, the welding's much better.
Oh, you can see that they're much shinier.
That's right. Now they're being protected, so now you've got a much better weld.
So we really see the results here when you have the inert gas shielding the welds from the oxygen in the air. Because oxygen, of course, is a highly reactive gas. When you've got oxygen and molten material, all sorts of chemical reactions are going to be taking place, and that means the chemical composition of your substances changes. That means you've got impurities. You're changing the chemical composition of the metals that you're working with, and they no longer behave the way you want them to. The shielding gas, the argon carbon dioxide mixture, keeps oxygen away, keeps the metals pure, and keeps them strong.
Alan, you know the chemistry and the science behind it. Now we just need to work on your style.
What do you think, Stoney?
I think it's time that you let me finish the truck. I need it to look good.
Am I just making work now?
You're more of a make work project.
Okay, well, we got our science lesson. I'll let the pros take over the welding.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony.
Cheers.